when I was a child, my great Aunt Ruth was my chief religious educator, I guess. As a little girl, Sunday school, all of those things. And she gave me one of those mustard seeds in glass balls. Do you remember that? People, there's a lot of hands that didn't go up. So I know that I'm showing my age. But what we used to do and what we used to have was they would take one mustard seed and put it in a glass ball, and it would go on a keychain or a necklace or a, what else? I can't remember. Bracelets. That was the deal, the bracelets. And my Aunt Ruth would say to me, remember when things are tough. All you need is a mustard seed's worth of faith. That's it. That's all you need. No big baskets, no big world, no big charging over the hill on a horse. No. All you need is a mustard seed's worth of faith. It's always been intriguing to me how something so very small could have so much significance. I didn't really understand it about mustard seeds until Richard and I went to the Middle East some years ago. And you would be shocked at how much mustard there is all over the ground in the Middle East. It grows everywhere. It's all over the hills. It's all in the gardens. It's everywhere. And it's constantly chop and whack and dig your way through, because mustard seeds are all over everywhere in the Middle East. And I don't know, there are shrubs, and there are plants, and there are things that grow along the ground. There's some that almost look like trees, and Jesus even said, to look here at the mustard, the birds of the field nest in its branches. It's no wonder that the Roman Empire and the Jewish leaders of the first century were concerned about this little offshoot group of people called Christians, who were spreading like wildfire, spreading like mustard seeds. And they could look at that and go, oh my God, this is the Roman people, mind you. These are the people who didn't understand about helping other people. These are people who let the poor and the sick die. Because, well, after all, they're poor, they're sick. We don't care. Paul took Christianity across the Mediterranean to Ephesus and the Gentiles, and in the 3rd century, Constantine made Christianity a state religion. Mustard seeds. Look at that. It went from nothing to a state religion in maybe 300 years. Just as a side effect, Constantine, the Roman Empire was collapsing. And they needed something to sort of hold the structure of the people and the villages and the communities together. So they decided on Christianity, and they would say to my husband Richard, well, you are a Christian. And so's your family and your kids and your slaves and everybody who works for you. They didn't know what they believed in. They had to have councils afterwards to write, okay, so we're Christians, so we're what? What does that mean? So you have all of this sort of confusion for the first 300 or 400 years about what Christianity really meant. But essentially, that was how it spread. To come closer to home, have you driven to the wine country lately? Have you seen all the mustard that grows under the vines? You have fields and fields of mustard and fields of grapes. Mustard keeps away the bugs, they say. Well, that's a good use. What can you do? Keeps away the bugs. And then there's the question of, have you tasted mustard recently? Mind you, I'm not just saying, when I was a kid growing up, mustard was in a yellow jar and it said French's, right? French's on it. Now you go and you look at mustard, and there are, maybe 12 shelves of mustard? You have ground mustard, yellow mustard, brown mustard, mustard with basil, mustard with garlic, mustard with wine, mustard with, you fill in the blank. There are so many different choices for mustard. And I would argue that mustard seeds have particularly to do, we could draw the metaphor of mustard seeds and the spread of spirituality. Because it began with one little small group that had a charismatic leader and 12 followers, and somebody killed the leader, right? Just to get a sense of the place of this vision. Don't forget that Israel at this time was a dusty little backwater country whose main claim to fame was it was a land bridge between Asia and Egypt. It was a trade route. It wasn't any big whoop. It wasn't any big yahoo. And this little cluster of mustard seeds, if you will, grew in the most unlikely of places. This is, in the Bible, they call it the growth of the kingdom of heaven, and we could spend hours metaphysically interpreting the kingdom of heaven, but for the moment, let's just call it that. Mustard, spirituality, spread of same, is an amazing impact on this world, if we let it. You know, here at Unity, we use the Bible as one of our texts, and we metaphysically interpret things that are in the Bible to help us understand every person, place, thing, and event in the Bible has something to do with our lives. So Jesus talked about mustard and mustard seeds and mustard bushes. So if I'm going to metaphysically interpret that, there are just a couple things I want you to think about. The first is that mustard seeds are so small, and yet they grow wild and untamed, and they're everywhere. I mean, take a look. Look at the mustard seed in your hand right now, and imagine it spreading all over the world. Imagine that. Charles Fillmore, who's one of Unity's founders, wrote that the mustard seed comparison shows the capacity and for the apparently small thought of truth that develops into consciousness that is our highest range of thought. Truth. Look at that. Sometimes our truth isn't any bigger than the mustard seed in your hand. Truth. And it develops into the highest truth of consciousness. Another thing to think about is mustard seeds are subversive. They symbolize that it's always the quiet, little, scraggly things that count. You know how that is in life. In relationships, it's, did I remember to say I love you? You squeezed the toothpaste in the middle of the tube and... Or the one that's a favor at our house is, you emptied the dishwasher wrong. I get busy and I empty half and then I forget to empty the other half. Then it looks like maybe is it clean, is it dirty, and it's hard to know. Yeah, I own that's me. But again, subversion. Mustard seeds. Oh, and governments. This is one of my favorites because, as you know, I'm a sort of a closet politician. Governments. It's the little lies that bring down the government. It's not the big stuff. It's the little lies. Or nowadays, it's the little throwaway Twitter lines. That's what brings it down. That's what gets wound up. That's what makes everybody go, oh, what? the little stuff, subversion. And then in the universe, we are a very small part of the universe, and yet we are all connected. So what happens to me happens to you. It's subversive. It's little, but it's right there. And finally, mustard seeds are stubborn. They grow. Whack, whack, get out of my garden. Nope, gone, I'm coming back. Have you ever tried to get mustard out of anything? Have you ever spilled one on your favorite shirt? Okay, I want to tell you a story. When my children were little and I was living in Santa Fe, New Mexico, my ex-husband and I bought a new house. Mind you, my first new house never had a new one, new first people in it, and it had the most beautiful white carpet everywhere. Living room, dining room, hallway, bedroom, matching miles of white carpet. It was beautiful and I loved it. And my son had a friend they were probably 8 or 9 at the time, these little boys. And Robert was a dear boy, but he probably was maybe ADD or something, because he was always really fun, really smart, really wonderful, and everywhere. So he was overplaying, and of course, as all good mothers did in those days, I gave the boys hot dogs for lunch. And you can imagine what happened next. Robert was eating his hot dog. He had put plenty of mustard and relish on it. He got up with something, had it in his hand, and all over my beautiful white carpet in the dining room, mustard. I managed to hold it together, and then I didn't kill them. And I sent them out to play, and I grabbed everything I could think of to try to scrub up the mustard. I used soap, I used water, I used soda, I used everything I'd ever heard. We didn't have Google in those days, so I couldn't ask for help from the outside. I tried bleach, I tried dishwasher soap, I tried everything I could think of, and it never, ever went away. The day we sold the house, there was still a yellow smudge. Wasn't bright by then, it was, kind of light yellow, but it was still there in my carpet for all those years and all that time. And that's how stubborn our belief is. If a mustard seed represents our faith, and we only need this much, and it's everywhere, and it's subversive, and it's stubborn, then there is no way that we can lose, because it will not go away. The brilliance of spirituality, particularly places like this, is that it is insistent on community. And one of the things we're happening now is that we're online community, we're in-person community, we're having a little trouble understanding what community looks like when we've all been locked away for so long. So we're kind of venturing out, some are and some aren't, but spirituality, so much of our spirituality depends on the community in which we live and in which we practice. And we find that the roots of our spirituality in the universe cannot be washed away. We are taught that when 2 or 3 or 65 or 5,000 are gathered together, we are a community of mustard seeds, and we are one. We grow throughout the world, to every land and nation. But we can quit church, you bet. People are quitting church in droves. And they're saying, no, I'm not religious, I'm spiritual. Okay, I'll get it. It's good to be spiritual. And yet, the brilliance of spirituality is its community and its community action. I always think when 2 or 3 are gathered together, I am in the midst of them. We are one, and that's who we are. It's true, we can run, but we can't hide. It's there, and we're there. And it's ours, and it's our root. Our spiritual lives stick with us like a mustard stain. It's in our blood. This is in our training. It is our root, our history, and our story. And it isn't that it has to be Christian. It can be whatever we've been raised with. But trust me when I say it doesn't go away. Just like mustard stains will not go away. You know, I was thinking last night as I was putting this together, if there are many ways today that we're a lot like the first century sisters and brothers. The Romans were pretty much in charge, and the Jewish leaders were pretty much in charge, and there were those of us that didn't agree, and that was all nice, but we were sort of in the way. You know, spirituality has become a lot like that foreign concept. You ever sometimes feel like you're alone out there with spirituality? I was talking to a nice man that I know from exercising online, my exercise classes online, and I ran into him face to face in the physical therapy office, and I knew him, but I didn't know who they were. They were in the wrong place. You know, they weren't on my screen. They were right there. And he and his wife travel a lot, and he said, you would be amazed at how much spirituality there is out there in the world outside of our Bay Area bubble. People will sort of sidle up to me and say, you know, I sort of believe in God. And then they'll start having a conversation. There's a lot of it out there, but it isn't wide, and it isn't blazing, and it isn't widely open. I don't know. It's become almost like a foreign concept. I don't know what you say. We look a lot, I think, when we look at us, sometimes it feels like the Roman Empire. It feels like a self-centered world where the poor and the sick die, and the world is worship many gods, and it's socially stratified in ways that we can certainly recognize. Look at us today. We are badly divided. Fewer and fewer of us think of ourselves as equal. We're spiritual, but many of us have no particular belief in God and almost no religious or spiritual training. We're struggling to love our enemies against a constant drumbeat of war and hatred and lies and fear and noise, and we are called to love our neighbors. Oh God, you have not met my neighbor. Are you sure you want me to love my neighbor? And it's easy to get caught up in a barren vision of life, a life without mustard seeds. That's the reason I had them passed out to you today. That's the reason you have them in a little plastic bag. Please put that bag in your wallet right next to your credit card or something, so that every now and then you'll bump up against it and remember that faith does not have to be any larger than a mustard seed. That's all it takes. On a personal level, I know that many of these are dark days. And we wonder where we are in this and just what exactly is ours to do. There are days when it looks like there isn't a mustard seed to be found. And then, usually, often, if we're out in nature or in the middle of the night, there's this little spark in our heart that goes, hey, remember me? I'm your mustard seed. I'm your faith. And I'm here. I am not gone. All is not lost. I'm subversive and stubborn and everywhere. And then it grows into a bigger sprout, and we get up, and it's like, oh, maybe there is faith. Maybe there is good. Maybe there is something to be found in the world. And there it is, itty bitty, And gradually it sprouts, and gradually it grows, and suddenly we're up and running and we're at it again. That's how it is with a mustard seed. When we gather together, whether we're in person or online, however it is we are, we sing, we laugh, we pray, we clap, and then, right at the height, we scatter out into the world. We go, no place in particular. And we know that we can grow anywhere. So, as I close this up, I want you to just take a moment. Hold on to your mustard seeds. Everybody got them in their hand, please? And just take a breath. Settle in. And I'm going to give you just a couple of thoughts. The mustard seed is a pervasive witness that symbolizes light in the darkness. Light in the darkness. It stands for hope in the face of grief and despair. The mustard seed helps us remember to trust in the movement of Spirit in our lives. The mustard seed grows in the good times and the bad. It is small, but mighty. The mustard seed is subversive, growing up in places where we did not expect to find it. And it is stubborn, like our faith. Like faith moving in our lives, the mustard seed simply will not go away. No matter what we are doing, where we are going, or how we are living. In closing, I stole a quote from somebody and I don't remember who it was. So I have to own that I swiped it. It's easy to say that we are all ministers as long as we remain in that orderly little world where we choose to live. But get out into the real world, the great world of facts, the noisy world where people are absolutely indifferent to us, where our message is nothing more than a crazy tale belonging to a bygone age. Can we follow our ministries there? The story of the mustard seed dates back over 2,000 years, and yet it is still part of our code talk. The mustard seed stands for something that is very small, but has a very great impact. And so it is with each of us. And Jesus said, "Truly I tell you, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, 'Move from here to there,' and it will go." And so it is. Amen. Thank you. We have an affirmation, and I would very much like for you to stand up and say it, just because we need to kind of get our blood moving, and Momo will sing and help us keep our blood moving. But as we stand and say the affirmation, now I'm going to steal this from Tim. Tim will say to you, repeat after me, with faith. With faith. Let's try it again. With faith. With faith. Nothing is impossible for me. Nothing is impossible for me. And so it is. Thank you so much.